Welcome into the Non-League Papers, Non-League Goalmouth. My name is Matt Badcock. I'm joined by our executive editor, John Couch, and our man in the North East, Mark Carruthers. Chaps, how are we?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. Have you liked and subscribed to this YouTube channel, you boys?
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah,
so.
first thing I did.
Well, I hope so, because we need everybody else to as well. So make sure you do that. And welcome back in to have a bit of a chat about, we're going to cover a bit of the National League, the results last night. We always have to come to Mark and say, who have South Shield smashed now that you've been at? So that seems to be the sort of the main topic of conversation each week when we've got you on, Mark. And we'll talk a bit about the FA Cup picks as well, the TV picks. And just have a bit of a catch up. I mean, maybe we should start with last night and the National League. It's only 3 games on. Couch, you were sort of talking about Morecambe last week when we had Andy Mitchell on and saying how it wasn't going too well at the minute, and obviously some difficult results, shipping lots of goals. There was 4 goals in their game last night, but they managed to score all 4 this time as they beat Boston, and that felt like an important win after a sort of a tricky, slightly tricky.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, I must admit I didn't see that coming. I'd pretty much written them off. I just thought they're conceding far too many goals. Didn't seem a happy place to be. Manager under a lot of pressure. But wow, what a result that is to go to a Boston team who decent at home, good side, and then to come away with a 4-0 win, gets them off the bottom of the table. All of a sudden, things look a lot different for them, and fair play to them, and fair play to the manager as well. Ashfield, he's been under pressure, difficult circumstances, obviously impossible circumstances almost, and he's managed to pull a real result out of the bag there at just the right time. So great result for them. Fair play to them.
Yeah. I think that's the thing we shouldn't forget, though, isn't it? Just what they've been through.
Yeah,
it's easy to forget, isn't it? Easy to forget.
Of course it is. And obviously, it's such a high to have come back from that, and then you just expect that momentum to filter into results or to transition into results. And he's working with a largely new look squad. I mean, it is pretty much a new squad completely, isn't it? With a new manager, with a new coaching staff, with this uncertainty in the background still. So I think it just needs to be. And I know it's easy to say from the outside, you're not there living and breathing it as supporters are, but just a little bit of patience and just let them find their feet.
Yeah.
And I suppose we know the National League can quickly swallow you up, can't it? And that's what happens at the start of the season when you're trying to find it. It's not the sort of the division to be coming into where you are coming in with that sort of instability and having to
doesn't wait for anyone, does it? National League.
Yeah, play catch up. But I think Graham Coughlin, Boston managers, I don't think I'd seen from his post-match comments to some of his players. I think that would be an interesting training session for the next game. Because he's obviously not happy about that at all after conceding obviously the goals the way they have. The other couple of other games last night, Eastleigh Scunthorpe, that was 1-1. He's made a sort of a decent start there, Scott Bartlett, but Scunthorpe absolutely. They're doing really well, aren't they, considering they come up from the promotion? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's interesting that the 2 teams who won promotion from Step 2, who came through the playoffs, are doing are faring so well. Is Scunthorpe and Boreham Wood. Both got a point last night, but Scunthorpe probably be pleased with that one down at Eastleigh. Do you think, Archie?
Yeah, very much so. 2 very good away points. Certainly Boreham Wood. I mean, to go to York, lead twice, and be very unlucky only to get a point. That shows a lot about them, and Luke Garrard knows that division very, very well, and he's got a very good blend of players to help him pick up results, and they look good, Boreham Wood, don't they? It's back to the Boreham Wood of old, and all of a sudden they're up to 2nd in the table now, and that's no coincidence. And again, you look at Scunthorpe, very different club in many respects, big fan base. Big football club, and all of a sudden they're going well too. Big result at Eastleigh. Eastleigh a little bit hit and miss, but obviously new manager syndrome there. So Scott Bartlett's already getting a tune out of them. So that would have been a difficult fixture for them. But they get a 1-1 draw. They'll take that long old trip on a Tuesday night from Scunthorpe to Eastleigh. I think they'll take that point and run. Both clubs going really, really well.
Yeah, probably shouldn't be surprised much with Boreham Wood, like you say there, because I think talking to Luke Garrard when they won promotion, he's kind of referenced the season before when they got relegated. And he said, I sowed the wrong seeds early on. I had the wrong kind of wrong kind of chat, that I was putting out there, and it kind of sort of seeped through the players and into the club, and they had that difficult year where they were relegated after having been in the playoffs the year before. And I know last year when they were kind of getting into that end of the season, that mad sort of National League South title race, he said he kind of totally changed his language, how he spoke. He had like music when they're coming into breakfast, playing like winners music underneath that they're sort of like trying to subtly get into the players' minds. But he set a totally different tone this time, and like I say, probably shouldn't really be surprised that they're up there.
No, I think, look, we've all been doing this long enough now to know what Luke Garrett can offer as a manager. At one point, I think we all expected him just to move into the Football League. He was one of those being spoken about, those FA Cup runs. He's certainly on the radar of a few EFL clubs when decent jobs came up. But what that shows to me is that he's learnt lessons of, what hasn't worked in the past, and he's not too stubborn that he's just going to stick with those methods. So, yeah, just a really talented manager. I love what Boreham would have done since they've come to the league. They haven't tried to, it's not been a complete overhaul of the squad. He's remained, he's kept his trust, and, most of the players that got him up. And to a degree, the same with Scunthorpe. I know they brought in a few, but it's really heartening, though, to see clubs coming up from step two and not just surviving, but actually looking to make a real impact. And there's still a long way to go yet, but they've certainly laid the foundations for a solid season, both of them.
And because of that, there's some big clubs right down the bottom there. You look at Sutton, Altrincham, Aldershot. All of a sudden, it's wide open, and I think that dogfight at the bottom there is gonna be interesting throughout the season. I wouldn't like to predict any week at the moment.
No, it feels like we're coming to that sort of kind of cliche, sort of crucial part of the year where you can really, next sort of month and a bit before Christmas, before that FA Trophy game, the break comes before Christmas, to really kind of set the foundations for that festive period. Do you think?
Yeah, very much so. Oh, sorry, Michael.
I think when you speak to managers at any level, I find a few will say they don't really look at the league table until December time, and that's, I know we joke about that, don't we, all the time, but it is true. Most of them genuinely don't look at it until that period, because it is the next sort of, I say, 4, 5, 6 weeks can really set the tone for the second half of the season. And I don't know why this is, because it's literally just a changing of a year, but it seems as if it does completely set the pattern.
Yeah.
It's such a bizarre thing.
If managers do that though, do they really not look at the table? I remember Gary Waddock used to say, "I never look at the league table," and this was like in March, April time.
Gary, you need to get some results. You got to get relegated.
He must have done at some point. Just like even just.
I think that they look at the league table is totally dictated by how they're doing.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
They
some of them don't want to look.
Some of them they're sort of when they're. I think it's almost like the other way around. When they're doing well, they pretend they're not like looking at it. And say, I'm not looking. I don't know. But
it's one of those things that managers say that.
Well, yeah. When do you start looking at the league table? That's the sort of philosophical question.
May.
Suddenly everyone's running on your pitch. Like, what's going on? Why is everyone on the pitch? Why is everyone celebrating?
If the league officials aren't turning up with a trophy, it hasn't gone too well.
Got the National League in the car park with a trophy in the boot. Why are they here? Talking of setting tones, we'll come on to South Shields, Mark. So you had that game last night, and that was a big win against 4-0 win against Scarborough.
Yeah. So trying to describe the opening 45 minutes of that game is really difficult, because for the first, say, 15 minutes, South Shields were excellent and looked full of confidence, got an early goal, unsurprisingly, through Paul Blackett. But then Scarborough found their feet, settled, had a really good spell of possession, missed a penalty, or I should say Stephen Walker's penalty was saved by Jasper Sheikh, the South Shields goalkeeper, and then South Shields scored just before half time. So Scarborough will rue that sort of. They also had a goal disallowed that they felt was slightly harsh for a foul, and I've got to say I can kind of see where they're coming from. So I think Scarborough will look to that sort of 20-minute spell as that was our chance to really get ourselves firmly in the game, because Kedwin Scott got South Shields second just before half time, and then Paul Blackett got another one just after half time. So it kind of, the game in that sort of 5-10 minutes either side of half time was taken away from Scarborough. But Yeah, South Shields just look full of confidence. They're playing a brilliant style of football. They look as if no matter who plays, there was a couple of changes last night. No matter who plays, they are just happy in their own skin. They're comfortable in their own skin. They're comfortable with what they're doing. I mean, it's 15 games unbeaten in all competitions now. They're into the first round of the FA Cup. They look very good. One of my colleagues at BBC Newcastle last night, I spoke to him after the game and said, it's a stupid question, it really is, and I'll admit that. But do you feel Ian Watson may know more about his players when they do lose a game and how they react rather than, win after win after win? You know what your reaction's going to be. You're bouncing, you're happy, you're confident, but will he learn more about what's inside his players when they do hit a bit of a road bump? Because it'll come. It happens to everyone. But at the moment, I'm not sure when that'll come. I mean, they've got a tough one Saturday. They're away at Macclesfield, which is obviously their last game before the FA Cup game. So it's an interesting sort of 2 weeks for them coming up.
Yeah. Big result also for Fylde, isn't there? 5-0 winners at Spennymoor. I wonder if we're starting to see a bit of a two-horse race starting there. I mean, Fylde are absolutely flying as well at the moment. Two teams scoring goals for fun. I just wonder if there's a little bit of a power shift going on there.
I think they played for them in about 3 weeks as well. I'm sure you remember.
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those, isn't it? It's almost like a bit too early to be saying, you come in and look at what the other result is and seeing it. But I imagine they did come in last night. I think that was a good result, and then see that Fylde have gone and whack Spenny 5-0. Coldclough got coupled in Daniel as well, and we're on the score sheet on Saturday as well. So
and vice versa, though.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You can imagine, Fylde thinking Scarborough at home will be a little tricky one for South Shields, but then to see, without knowing the manner of the performance, or what happened in the first half anyway, to see that they've won so comfortably in the end, that'll be.
But same the other way around, though. I mean, I think South Shields would have probably thought, spending more away, nothing easy there, and to go and win 5-0, that's pretty impressive. So,
Yeah, there were some it felt like there's some teams who had some important wins, like, Radcliffe have won again last night as well. But you sort of feel, there's some of those teams that we were talking about earlier in the season. Kidderminster obviously beat Merthyr last night as well, didn't they? Chester won as well.
Very good for them.
It's it's kind of starting to settle down, and that's what we mean about this kind of period, don't we? That it's we're coming up to that really crucial one where we can lay some real foundations, as we say, going into the next bit. I mean, National League South has kind of been interesting as well. Obviously, Hornchurch, the leaders, weren't playing last night. Weston-super-Mare change of manager. Obviously, lost Scott Bartlett to Eastleigh. Scott Rogers has now been appointed as the to succeed him, and they've just kind of continued it as well. No change. They won 5, beat Slough 5-1 last night, and went above Hornchurch on, I think it was on goal difference. But that kind of just goes to show sometimes that continuity in football is a massive thing.
That's it. Momentum, as they say. Weston-super-Mare have had an unbelievable start to the season, and the fact that I think they got hauled back to 1-1 last night by Slough, and Slough did have a man sent off, and they punished them in droves, really. Fantastic result for them, going back at the top of the division. They were one of the teams that sort of they were off people's radar. All the talk was on the money men, and it's not always. It doesn't always pan out that way, as my boys in the Championship will attest. But we won't talk about that.
You said we wouldn't bring up Ipswich Town, and you're the one who's brought them up. It's not my fault. You brought it on yourself. You're not happy this morning, but I thought you were talking about Dagenham when you were first.
I did as well.
First going down that route, obviously in the relegation zone, and not having a good time with kind of everything that's gone on there. But I think there was probably those teams that we expected to be up there at the start maybe haven't quite got themselves going. Hornchurch, been at a great start. Probably shouldn't be a surprise because you got a good manager, Darren McMahon. Also, he made some really good signings in the summer of players from above, and he got his business kind of done quite early as well, didn't he? So they were well settled, and Totten kind of come up and doing well. Torquay, they're hanging around there as well at the minute. It's kind of you wonder if it's going to turn into another totally bonkers title race like it was last year.
It looks like it. I mean, the big clubs in there that hold on. Dawkins, another one. You expect them to be there or thereabouts, not pulling up trees at the moment. As I say, big win for Torquay last night as well.
Yeah.
Can't predict what's going to happen in that league, but just great to see. Great to see two of the more unfashionable sides, should we say, in Western and Hornchurch making all the early running.
Yeah, you wonder sort of how much sort of Truro last year kind of has given more and more sort of belief to sort of clubs that they can, don't have to be about all the sort of the so-called favourites and the big boys going
Clubs
in there.
like Tottenham, who beat them in the FA Cup, they'd be looking at Truro thinking, if they can, why can't we? We get good crowds, and the tricky result for them last night, but they're still well in the mix.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go on to the FA Cup as well, because I know we spoke quite in depth about it last week, but since then the FA Cup TV picks have come out. South Shields are obviously going to be on the box as we probably expected. Any there, Couchy, that you thought might have got the nod that didn't?
Barnsley York.
Yeah, I was going to say York.
That was the one, I think, for me. That was, as soon as that come out, that was wow, great fixture. York, not your archetypal non-league team. They're packed with very talented players. Barnsley, sort of one of the bigger League One clubs in the draw. Nice big crowd there at Oakwell, and you think, wow, that could be a TV one. Quite surprised. If it had been the other way around, it would have gone in there. But that was probably the only one. But I thought the picks in general were pretty fair. Pleased to see Chelmsford Braintree on there. Good old local derby in Essex. Probably, if it had been, if the clubs had been a little bit further apart geographically, I don't think it would have been on the telly. But nice big local derby. Lot of local bragging rights to play for. So pleased that was on there.
Yeah, I think that's the one that kind of you wouldn't necessarily expect to, because it was all non-league. But it sort of shows maybe there's been a sort of slight shift in the way they're looking at things and really sort of paying attention to that. So sort of full credit to the people in the sky who pick these TV games.
Yeah.
And Mark, South Shields Shrewsbury on that Sunday lunchtime. That's a great one for the club to show themselves off. And like you say, that sort of Shrewsbury thinking, well, don't need this.
I mean, firstly, I'd say I thought Spennymoor were quite unlucky. Spennymoor Barrow not to get on. Obviously, League Two club going to a club going well until last night. Obviously, in the National League North, I think that would have been one that maybe could have been viewed as a potential upset and a TV pick as a result. But yeah, I feel a bit for Spenny, because you look at the draw elsewhere, and there's a lot of ties that really did stand out. And I mean, as soon as South Shields came out and got the draw they got against Shrewsbury, I thought straight away that would be one. It's interesting because speaking to people in and around South Shields, they see it as a big opportunity, understandably, but at the same time, also there's a lot of talk about when that draw came out of what the reaction at Shrewsbury would have been about, going to a side that are unbeaten, that are full. So there's not this. This non-league stigma of that they're going to be part-time players who are going to be shattered after 70 minutes and will just win the game in the last 20. They are full-time pros. South Shields, someone commented last night, on one of the fittest sides you could face. They go for 90 minutes literally, and they've got good quality off the bench. So it's a really, really tough tie for both sides, if we're honest. But the mental side of it, of how Shrewsbury cope with going to the First Cloud Arena and facing a side that will play like South Shields will. And I know South Shields will feel they've got a point to prove that, it's not a flash in the pan. If you can have a flash in the pan after 15 games, I'm not sure that's quite how it works. But, they are kind of the real deal. And what better way of doing it than knocking League Two opposition out of the FA Cup in front of the cameras? Yeah, so going to be a big one. Looking forward to being at that one. Not so much looking forward to a midday kickoff, because that means a very early arrival, given the crowds that'll be there as well. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's I
think it's good for us as well that they're not all on Sunday. Thinking selfishly for us at the paper, we want some meaty ties on a Saturday, don't we?
Yeah, we want some big games. A few years ago, it was a lot of games were moved to the Sunday, weren't there? It was 10, 12 games, and they did their live score, which was quite a sort of trying to be a bit like NFL Red Zone in some ways. It was quite a nice thing to do, but it did sort of move everybody out of that kind of that natural sort of rhythm of Saturdays. And I sort of had a bit of a theory a while ago that sort of the games on sort of Sundays and there wouldn't be that many shocks, just because I felt like people were in the regular pattern of the Saturdays, and I think we've all seen it where the league side turn up and things start going against them a little bit, and it becomes a bit difficult, and it can get a bit bogged down, can't they? And you sort of look at, I think for Tamworth Huddersfield last year, it was obviously on the Friday night, and Huddersfield could just see they were running out of ideas against Tamworth, and that can be the thing, can't it? If these league teams don't get their heads on it quickly, it can become sort of a really uncomfortable afternoon. I sort of think about that Tamworth game you went to last year, that Tamworth Spurs one. You think when Tamworth got in at the end, if the one ball, a better ball across the box and put in, it could have been a totally different story, couldn't it?
They were very, very close to winning that game in the end there, and if they had have done, no one would have begrudged them that. They were fantastic on the day. Spurs didn't turn up. I mean, poor old Anne, she's been going through the ringer a little bit, but he won't have had any more uncomfortable afternoons than that at Tamworth last season. I mean, it was a centre back whose name escapes me, but it just fell for him. From a corner, it just fell to his feet, 6 to 8 yards out, and if he'd just got a proper contact on it, that was in the back of the net. And blimey, what a result that would have been.
I'm sure Ange's doing all right with 2 big payoffs in the space of 5
Oh
minutes.
I'm sure.
Wherever he is on holiday right now.
Yeah.
I don't think
I'm behind him.
I think that's the best career path as a sort of a Premier League manager, is just to get a job and get sacked and get nice.
It's going to happen anyway, so you might as well
just enjoy your life rather than all the stress of it. I don't know why they do it, but they are weird though, these FA Cup games. When it's kind of all the sort of the boring cliches that you say, keeping the game, all that kind of stuff, get into those last 20 minutes and anything can happen. But sometimes when you're in these grounds, you can really sort of sense that, can't you? It almost then does become that kind of that ball into the box, and can you get a header on it? Can you get something on it when the ball drops down? And kind of, it doesn't always need to be the most beautiful of
moments, isn't it?
Moments, yeah.
Making the most of those big moments.
I always remember going back to. Sorry, I'm going back to South Shields, but when they played Forest Green a couple of years ago, and I came away from that game thinking Shields didn't really have a go that day. It was kind of like Forest Green dictated the game from very early on, and this was the Forest Green side that were, they were good, but they weren't great. You didn't look at them and think you've come and blown South Shields away there. Whereas I think in all the kind of cup upsets we've probably seen and worked at, the tone's kind of set quite early on. When there's nervy moments for the kind of so-called, whatever you want to call them, the high-ranked side or whatever, and you can sense that sort of nervousness creeping throughout them and the tension, and then the supporters get on board, and you can sense it, the belief growing in the stands and on the pitch as well. So I think that's one thing for all of our sides in terms of non-league. I think that's one of the things they'll need to do to cause an upset, is to set those nerves going early on and really have a go early on as well, because I think sometimes if you take a cautious approach, generally higher level players will eventually take advantage of any slips. So it's going to be a really interesting weekend. Again, I said it last time I was on. It's one of the best weekends of the season for me. The first round.
Yeah, me too.
Just absolutely love it.
Yeah, man, me too.
Yeah, agree. Like you say, that so I suppose like when the fullbacks start like shinning the ball out for throws, like the league football league, and these things. Oh, what's going on? This will kind of get into them. They're doing stuff they would never normally do. But as you say, what if they get on top, and once they sort of if they get in control, then it can be kind of game over. And that's what you say, the fitness thing is, it's not that the players aren't fit enough. It's just if anyone's going to get knackered if a league team's going to start moving the ball around you, and you have to chase it around. And if they get on top of you, it can be a long thing.
I think that was the case a few years ago, not anymore.
The one thing I do love is the shank out of the ground that you're on about. It's generally the look down at the pitch, isn't it? Like, oh, God, it's a pitch here. It's terrible. It's not the fact that you're panicking. You've just absolutely shanked one.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That's normally me on a really flat pitch. I remember a few years ago we played this random few of us went down. We played for prostate cancer. Invited us down to a game at is that Fulham's training ground? Actually, I mean Crystal Palace was sharing at the time. It's also Palace like Dwight Gale and Johan Kabay walking around, and we played against I think it was some MPs, and we were on maybe like the furthest pitch out the back of sort of Fulham's training ground. And it was the best pitch I've ever played. Probably one they'd never ever where they put these kind of games, and it was far too flat for me. Far too flat for me because there was no excuse. The ball was coming to you. It was coming. It was no excuses at all. No excuses. I'm a player who needs an excuse, and also I like if the ball just pops up a little bit because you can really get under it. Sort of like when you like a golf shot and just like really whack it clear. But yeah, it will be an interesting weekend for sure. I'm sure we'll cover much more of that next week as well. We've obviously got the FA Trophy coming up this week. A lot of Step 3 sides involved in that before the Step 2 clubs come in. And at this kind of early stage of the competition where it's sort of bubbling away a little bit, isn't it? And kind of Step 3 and 4 clubs are just knocking each other out before the other clubs come in. But we've seen in recent years that you at these levels you can have a really good run. Think of Sittingbourne last year, obviously Hornchurch winning it a few years ago. So an opportunity for the clubs playing this weekend to try and get through and start getting one of those bigger clubs to come down or to go to in the next round.
Yeah, there's always one Step 3 or 4 team that goes well. As you say, you mentioned Sittingbourne. There's always one team that lasts the distance, and I just think there's big opportunity here for one of those teams to sort of really lay down a marker and go on a little run. And who knows if you can go just that 1-2 steps further than Sittingbourne last year, then you're at Wembley final. I mean, and as Aldershot and Spennymoor fans will tell you from last year, it's a day you'll remember for the rest of your life. And there's real opportunities here. Lucrative games on offer for when the Step 1 and 2 teams come in. I think Step 2 come in next round, don't they? So I mean it's starting to get really, really interesting. And 31 ties, 32 ties.
32, it's one on Sunday. You're in terms of paper, there's 31 games going in, but there's 32. And you're at one of them. You're on Friday night. You're at
a lovely northeast derby.
Dunstan,
Hebburn Town, I should say. Yeah, should be a really interesting one. Dunstan probably haven't quite hit their stride yet this season. I think it's probably fair to say that. For one reason or another, you look at them and I think because of the last 2 seasons, because of those playoff final defeats, everyone just expects them to be there or thereabouts. And I do think they will be. They're just taking that time to get going. But Hebburn, big new signing in Robert Briggs, just come in. Someone that's obviously known in Northeast Non-League football for his long spells with South Shields. So, good signing. It should be a brilliant atmosphere. I'm hoping there'll be a big crowd at the UTS Stadium. And to be honest, it's a game that I genuinely feel anything can happen. I don't think it's one of those where you go Hebburn or the level above, so they're just going to go and dominate the game and win it, because that'll kind of probably be playing at Dunstan's hands. The fact that they'll want to cause an upset. They'll want to prove that Hebburn, they want to bring them down a peg or two. But 2 good managers, 2 good squads, a lot of players that know each other very well, and it's really good one under the lights as well.
Where do you I always feel like every sort of Friday night, Mike, we see your social media and that you are out at a game. There seems to be a lot of kind of Friday night football up there. Where do you what do you sort of make of those atmospheres? Because there's kind of been a bit of debate about this over the last couple of weeks, isn't there, now with the Clubber TV deal that the Step 3 and 4 leagues have done. And they're kind of the initial reaction of, is this going to be moving 3 o'clock kickoffs away, which kind of, the Mark Harrison wrote a column in Non-League paper last week kind of stressing that that's not the case. But he was also saying, clubs are going to be looking at different ways. And, in an ever increasing competitive market with lots of people got so much going on. And Friday night football, some clubs seem to really quite buy into it. And it isn't that traditional sort of Saturday, but do you kind of think it does bring something to these clubs sometimes?
I think the problem is that it was a novelty at one point where maybe one game was played on a Friday night. But I think what I've seen recently across more so the Northern League, is that maybe 3 or 4 or 5 are going. So it kind of dilutes the attendances to an extent, because you'll go, if one game's on, you'll get groundhoppers who will go and, they may swell the attendance by 50, 100, whatever. But then when you've got 4 or 5 games, it kind of, like I say, dilutes that. But I've found the games I've been at on a Friday night, the atmosphere is really good. I mean, I was at Newcastle Blue Star against Horden in the Northern League, was it 3 weeks ago now? And there wasn't a lot there because it was when we had the storms and stuff, and the game was only just on. But the atmosphere was good, and I think a lot of people saw it as kind of the start of a Friday night out, maybe, where they went and had a few drinks at the game and then went on into town along the Scotswood Road from where Blue Star play. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? The whole streaming of games. Obviously, I've seen arguments on both sides. I'm not really sure where I stand on it at the moment. I think they've got to be very careful with the picks in those games. If it is two sides who are from a fair distance away, then fair enough. It gives away fans an option to watch it without, the expense of travelling. But at the same time, I'd be wary if it was a local derby, for example, where you kind of want a big crowd there. So I think they've got to be careful with the games they pick. It's really interesting seeing the clubs that have put statements out as well and expressed their displeasure and opting out and all that sort of stuff. It's been a fascinating one to watch from the outside.
Yeah, I think so. I think going to games though is it's never going to be replaced, and that's kind of what non-league is about, isn't it? So I think if even midweek it does get a few extra people kind of would tune in and watch, and if you can't get to a games and you sort of see the value of that, a lot of people felt that in COVID. But I think ultimately the experience of going to non-league is always going, and all football, look at all football, people like to go. Obviously, people can feel like they're getting priced out higher up the pyramid, and you sometimes look at some of the prices that clubs are charging in the National League as well, and you think, I'm not sure you're sort of going the right way about it. Even kind of coming further down. I know everything is getting more expensive, but I think we all know that we like going to non-league because we like going to the games. That's what it's all about as well, isn't it? But I find this sort of the Friday night with maybe different clubs, it works for them better than others. I went to Friday night Haverhill Rovers against Haverhill Borough Derby last year in Suffolk, and it kind of did feel like as you say, sort of a start of a weekend. It had a really good atmosphere. You maybe got a few more down there than you might otherwise have done on a Saturday when people have got lots of other things going on. It's sort of different. It's hard to sort of put a blanket over everybody, isn't it? Everyone's kind of comes at it from their own sort of viewpoints, I guess.
We've just got to be careful, and not just in non-league. I mean, this is from the very, very top end of the game down to non-league level. We've got to be careful that we're not taking match-going supporters for granted, and we're not pandering to armchair supporters and kind of forcing them away from going to games. I feel as if a lot of the match day experience is the atmosphere created by supporters. It's I hate using this word, but it's the banter on the terraces. It's the that roar that you hear when a goal goes in or a strong tackle or whatever. And we can't lose that. I think if there is one good thing to come out of the COVID times, it is the fact that we know football without supporters in the stadiums or in grounds is an awful experience, because it's just it's nothing. So I realise I'm going back sort of 5 years there, by the way, but it is true. It's it was a horrible, sterile environment to be in, and we really do. We can't take match-going supporters for granted at all, because they make the match day what it is as much as those on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's as we say, the experience of going to non-league is kind of the match is important and good, but you go to. We go to games of teams we don't support because we like going to non-league games, don't we? It's not, obviously it's our job as well, but sometimes we'll just go to watch a game of football as well. But there is this kind of real movement into non-league in the last few years, which is great. And as you say, it's about kind of making sure those fans are retained as well. And you see some of the pricing as well is creeping up a little bit, but that'd be interesting how that pans out. But a busy weekend ahead, as we say. Trophy, we've had the Vars draw out as well, so we've got the coverage of that in this week's paper. Whitstable coming back in now, aren't they, after their after their win last year. So that would be interesting, and lots of FA Cup previews for the games next week as well. And hopefully speaking to Danny Robinson, who's reached 1,000 games as Hungerford. Well, not as Hungerford. He's the Hungerford manager. He's reached 1,000 games as a manager. He had that great day out at the FA Vars final with Thatcham a few years ago, didn't he? So, it's kind of all these things are entwined together, and that's the beauty of the game, isn't it? Where people can go and have these big moments in the sun, but then you forget about all that dedication that they've been putting in over many years. Would you boys actually fancy being a manager? It's a lot of team talks, isn't it? 1,000, and a lot of stress. It's such a unique kind of job, non-league management, I think.
1,000. You're talking best part of 20 years, aren't you? Really, 50 games average season. I'm guessing. That's some going, isn't it? I mean, I interviewed Peter Clark. We were talking about his 1,000th game, his 1,000th game. Just as he was telling me about sort of some of the stories from yesteryear, and you think, wow,
back in the good old days, you say.
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah. I mean, to play that amount of games is one thing. To manage them, for that length of time, it's a fantastic achievement. He's only a young boy as well. Yeah, well, young boy. He's a young man. Is Danny? He's got easy another 1,000 left in him.
We're going to speak to him. He's got another 1,000 in him.
Yeah,
when you put that on top of family life and having a full-time job as well, so you've effectively got 2 full-time jobs for 20 odd years, whatever it is. It's a heck of a demand, isn't it? It's a lot of work and a lot of stress. So
yeah.
Question, I'll stick to Football Manager on my laptop instead.
Yeah, especially this day and age, is getting more. But as Football Manager, as I tell you, it's getting more and more stressful all the time. It's just far more at stake, and one season is grueling enough, but 20 of them.
The spotlight seems to be much bigger now as well, isn't it? There's much more. 3 idiots like us sitting on a podcast talking about it. Well, no, thanks for joining us, chats. I really appreciate that. Thanks everybody for tuning in as well. As we said at the beginning, if you'd like and subscribe, that'd be much appreciated, and it goes a long way. We'll catch you again, chaps. Enjoy your rest of your week. Enjoy your games over the weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. All the best.